My name is Barbara Gutierrez, and I am hosting our next panel, Loud and Monomyto, developers and influencers partnering. So, how can they work side by side to build in game strategies that are beneficial to both? In this lecture, Bruno PlayHard, CEO of Loud, and Rafael Costa, project and relationship manager of Monomyto Studio, talk about their strategic partnership for the competitive game Gunstars, with a focus on making the project self scaling according to influencers, brands, and communities. This session is originally in Portuguese, so if you want to hear it in English, check out our web link and change it into English on our channel. So let's call our participants for this panel. Bruno Bittencourt, founder influencer of Loud, and Rafael Costa, project relationship manager at Monomyto Studios. How you boys doing? Hey, Barbara, how you doing? Rafael, good afternoon, folks who are watching us. It is a real pleasure being here. Um, I've been part of the audience in the past, and it's my first time here behind the curtains as one of the speakers. I'm thrilled. I'm stoked. Lots of things for us to talk about with Rafael here, a colleague, and also presenting Monomyto. If you don't know me, I'm Bruno. I can say that we work with the influencer industry in mobile games since 2014. I'm a content producer, worked a lot with social networks, and now I'm the founder and CEO of Loud. We created this platform 2 years ago. You know, we have esports teams, channels, content, influencers, music, and we've grown significantly. And we put together a strategic partnership with Monomyto. Rafael can talk a bit more about that as well. Hey, folks, how you doing? Good afternoon, Barbara. Pleasure being here. Once again, participating at Biggie, 100% online now, so we don't miss anything. You know, I've been watching fantastic presentations. Big time congrats, and thanks for the invite, for being here to share this extremely interesting moment for so many developers and those who love the games industry, and also announcing our partnership, Monomyto and Loud. If you don't know me, I'm Rafael, one of the co-founders of Monomyto. I've been working as a project manager, product manager at Monomyto. And if you don't know Monomyto, we're a mobile developing game company. Our focus has been to create experiences uh, for a mid-core audience of gamers and bringing a bit of our meaning as the name. Monomyto, it comes from the hero archetype used in games and movies, the hero myth, you know, not just into our visual identity, but into our games. And Gunstars, the product we're going to present today, focusing on this partnership, we're going to explain everything that we intend to do with influencers. And we also intend to get players to feel that they own their own game, and therefore can, you know, we can bring interactivity with their real idols and their game style. That's what I can say. So cool. Thank you, folks. It's a pleasure being here talking to you and talking about this great partnership. But before, let's bring people up to speed. You know, what is Gunstars? So it's a mobile game. Okay, you mentioned it. I know there are battle royale elements. It's nice for us to explain a bit about that. Rafa, I'm gonna leave it to you, and then I'll talk to Bruno about the partnership. So, Rafa, you're on the spot now. For those who don't know what a battle royale kind of game is, what is Gunstars? Okay, so before we talk about the industry, let's talk about Gunstars. Gunstars, we had the pleasure and the privilege of sharing in the last big festival, but it was really quick, but it was nice to participate at that moment. And now we're bringing it, as you said, it's a shooter that was created and thought for mobile devices with the battle royale genre, and we're working with Loud now to create a truly innovative product in terms of bringing influencers and players closer in a unique way. That's the topic of our presentation here today. So we're creating interesting tools and mechanics right from the game's foundation, from its development. So for this all to happen in a more immersive, a more interesting way. So for those who don't know Gunstars, it's a shooter game focused on battle royale. Um, we've been working for 36 players to play in real time. That could change, but according to the tests we're running, that's the goal for the game. And something Monomyto has been doing extremely well, and we always focus on bringing that to our products, not just visual quality and interesting mechanics over to mobile, uh, using what the device itself allows us as a user experience in terms of screen. We want to work battle royale in a way for it to have a shorter learning curve, a quicker learning curve, considering that this is a mid-core audience. So for those who are right there in the middle, you have to uh, get a few of the casual players, who are interested in this kind of game, this genre, and a bit more hardcore players who want to be competitive and want to show who they are. But as I had anticipated, our focus is on mid-core players. So we believe that the shorter learning curve is interesting, as long as it's not something too simple. So we work on that, but we've been working so that we are not going to have, we need to have the depth of a shooter game as well. So a bit further along, talking about the game, I believe this is our first important pillar about Gunstars. As it is a battle royale, we bring something that is a bit, you know, a bit different, faster rounds, frantic from the beginning. And for mobile, we can bring this in a very interesting way, very innovative way. So it's a mix of several genres, not just battle royale, a bit of MOBA, a bit of strategy games, and some features we can talk about is that the game is 100% uh, you know, it's random. And they can destructible, 100% destructible. They can break everything. They collect items, weapons, and they create a kind of a build, to use the gamers' jargon, right? It's a build to get ready for those tougher, more difficult moments in the round. So I died quick. Join again. It's going to be a real quick round. So it's pretty easy. That's we believe this brings a fuller experience to the game. And these tools, of being able to create your build, you can use the map to your favor. The visibility system, can use the explosions, you can use it as an obstacle. There are a number of ways that you can create your strategy, your in-game strategy. We bring two new bits that we see frequently. It's interesting for this kind of game, but not well explored or exploited for this game due to the complexity. Uh, the level ups, the level system in a round, it's a quick match. So we bring this to Gunstars in a simple way to do it, to up your character, but it's very strategic. When I say simply, you're going to be leveling up, but you're going to have some quick decision making points to see if, fork on the road. I want to be more agile. I want to be stronger. I want to have a stronger armor, and customization as well. One of the strong points we're bringing into the game. And with the currency of the game, they have all options to unblock and to tailor certain things in the game, personalizing it.
Que bacana. Gostei bastante da ideia,
Wow,
principalmente desse,
really like the idea,
dessa
especially
troca
the
de gêneros,
the
assim,
mashup
que
of
você
genres
falou.
that you
Eu
that you
queria,
brought.
queria muito mais
what I had here was much more the battle royale co-op against the AI, but you're getting lots of other things and blending them into something very original. Nice. So now that we understand a bit of what the Gunstars game is about, Bruno, I'd like for you to briefly, you talked a bit about Loud, and I I can imagine very few people don't know what Loud is, but it's always nice to give people some background to get everybody on the same page, and how this whole partnership started. What was the first idea like, and to kick off this agreement? Okay, so giving a bit of background about Loud, we started in 2019. It was an esports organization, mobile streaming, battle royale, and we saw the success of that genre and that game specifically. We decided to put together a content creator and pro players team as if it were a marketing tool for the game and our project using the esports ecosystem. But quickly we pivoted. We went into other games. We're at CB, League of Legends, Fortnite, and other branches of entertainment, blogs, lifestyle, pranks, music, a lot of things, we bring to the house. And in Loud, we're developing lots of technology, data tools to support on our daily analysis and inferences. AI is key in what we're achieving through our content, to be able to quantify, to price it, to understand the trends of what we're doing, to develop more products and services to this audience that we have acquired through online gaming. So Loud, we do that. Halfway, we see the work of Monomyto. I met Rafael. We saw their development in other games. High quality, very picky, very detailed. I always thought it was interesting. I started Supercell, Clash of Clans, Brawl Stars, well, very polished games, and I saw that at Monomito. So talking to Rafael, we try to understand how a partnership would make sense, what we could add over to their side and what they could deliver to Loud and our influencers. So with that talk, we noticed that the industry activates influencers very well. Brands, celebrities, they can do this marketing work in a very interesting way, but it's not so well tied. They go to the first page, and when you go to the depth of the game, it's not every day you meet assets, influencers that are recognized in the real world in the game. This happens especially because as influencers, we're very limited in social networks that we work with. So with those traditional interactions with comments in Instagram, likes, reposts, and sharings, and live YouTube, the Twitch. So we can understand the traditional relationships that take place, but the game is never that well tied. So when some of these experiences take place, we see a great peak of success. This happened a few times throughout the years. Games are adapting to this. In the Carnival of Cidade Alta, it's a role play within GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto. Several brands coming into this event and influencers participating as characters, real characters in those events supported by the brands. So those interactive experiences have had incredible results. So Roblox, Minecraft, that they can sandbox these events in a very easy way. Fortnite that does this, with mastery. They produce events that look like a motion picture, a unique experience, and only those who are there can understand how cool it is. When you identify with something that's in your favorite game, for us gamers, we know that it's very cool, it's wonderful, and this is what we want to build with Monomito, being together from the get-go, from the development of a game, even though it's a game that we know the genre, maybe we want to innovate with some features and tools, but we can bring this to connect the players to brands, and we have access with the community because it's much more natural. The players today, the audience, the gamer, they validate these influencers as something inspirational and as a benchmark, as somebody like him who's another gamer in the other side of the screen. So the influencers are the foundation of promoting any game on the internet, even though the game wants to position itself as a brand, but the influencers will always be bigger in terms of reach and authenticity of the message that is shared with the gamers. So you can imagine, if they can be the gamers themselves that they idolize in the game, or they can support the players that they support out of the game in the game, if they can play with the influencers in a maybe multiplayer co-op experience in Gunstars, that makes a lot of sense. So if we can have branded assets branded by Loud, by our influencers in a mobile game, which is where everything started, and we know that most of our audience consumes via mobile, and especially light games in not so powerful devices, that's where the game fits in. When we bring this marketing arm of Loud, the strength of the influencers, we can think about how a mid-core casual game focused on more affordable devices, we can connect in a very positive way, motivating influencers to produce content, to play, and they're gonna get revenue share. They're gonna get, yeah, they're going to share the revenue, have their character in the game that motivates them to create content, their own skins. They're going to be represented by the game that they produce content for. And that ends up being a barrier in traditional games. No matter if you're the best or the greatest influencer in the game, there's that last barrier. They're always experimenting with the personality, but I don't think the star personality person, but I think being closer, being a more natural relationship on the daily basis. When they come from school, they're not turning on the TV, they're watching YouTube and watching these games. So if we can connect the game to those people, I think that's where the great leap lies, and that's the test that we're running with Gunstars, a game that was at the final phase of development, and when we got there, and we had to plug it into the Loud mindset and building these social experiences in relationships with brands that we could. And the partnership, we hope it's going to be long-lived for many years. We'll be able to produce and develop new titles that will have this very same mindset, these ideologies we're building here from day one, from the very first stage of development and from the concept of the game. So it's a bit of that we've been trying to do with this partnership. We're very thrilled with that. It's going to be the very first gaming experience that Loud will be positioning itself in the marketplace.
Olha,
That's great to hear. Look, just a side note about if you're hearing the word branded and you don't know what it means, when we talk about branded content, we're basically talking about content related to a brand. So in a game, we're seeing that this is a game directed towards Loud influencers. So, Rafael, we want to talk about this new movement on the side of independent developers talking to influencers. It's always very difficult for devs, especially here in Brazil, to attract attention from the mainstream media. It's very difficult to get there, to get awareness. So, with influencers, do you believe that this is a new trend or will it still be difficult? It's not easy, right? So, what do you think? I think that the biggest dilemma for game developers is understand how they can have a good sort of reach. On e-stores and mobile games, you have Google Play Store, you have the App Store on iOS, which are the main sales points. And there are some strategies that you can make use of related to publishing a game. And that's how you're going to reach your players. But still, I'm trying to answer your question. The best way of reaching your target audience in a more precise way is probably to have partnerships not only with a traditional publisher, a lot of developers know about, launching soft launches, launching in different areas, in strategic regions, and also raising feedback from your game for the general launch. But you should be testing from when the product is conceived. So in our case, it really fit like a glove to have this partnership with Loud and Monomyto. We have a competitive game. It's totally for multiplayer uh, play. So influencers are a great part of this process. You know, with them, we can get a good position in the market, but we're talking to just us, a part of our our audience. There's a lot that we can do to expand it, but I don't see it only as a fad. Influencers have always been there, maybe not as today. You know, we see that we are having more and more streaming and video views. It really is a phenomenon. And not only do we have players, but we have viewers. They're very important for the game and everything that turns around that ecosystem and keeping it strong. So it's always important to make things happen in a correct manner. So, Bruno, concerning the investment from Loud, do you believe that this will be used for mobile or indie games? I imagine that a lot of people who are watching this and who love Loud will want to know about the future. But you know, we're still far from it. So are you investing in Monomito and Gunstars because of it being a mobile game, or did you really want to uh, give some incentive to the Brazilian indie market? Well, I think a little bit of both. First, we decided to invest with Monomito on this game and on others because we really believe in the team. More than having a great product, which they had. It was basically ready when we came in. It was far along the development, but they have a very good team, and their vision on how to create games is very good. Usually, it's something that we see in indie studios. It really connected to what we believe creates quality, scalable products, and things that we can boost with our marketing. So it's a little bit of both. Of course, it's very important for me as a computer engineer. I wanted to support a quality indie studio that could do this and that can grow to be a major studio if everything works out. So it's a little bit of both, and we're gonna, pursue this dream together. That's beautiful. We love hearing that, pursuing dreams together. So let's talk a bit about what lessons were learned in this partnership. For you as developers and for you as an influencer, what is the right way of joining a new IP, a new game, or a new title to an influencer? If I'm not mistaken, Bruno mentioned, well, there are some examples in the market, but we didn't think that they followed an ideal strategy. So, what is the ideal strategy for you? What did you learn from all of this? You can start if you'd like to, Rafael. So, as Bruno had said, I think we're adding up two powers, right? First, you have a strategic view of the market. You understand influencers, you understand the audience, and you add that to a strong development side, and that creates a very well-rounded product. That's very interesting because you get different perspectives, and that allows you to improve your product. Gunstars was already in development, so what we did was to change many things so that it could be in the same lines as our strategy and what we believe would work. And that also relates to our new idea of having influencers and bringing in, the idols, bringing them closer to their players and to their watchers. So we ended up, changing some parts of the game. The next ideas, the next projects that we have ahead of us will also be simpler. It will be a bit more streamlined, just so that we, you know, work together since we know each other's language, and we're going to start from the conception, mitigating what is important and what is not, so that we can start testing, having a product with the qualities we believe it should have. Yeah, I agree completely with that. I think we combined two things, and the best partnerships are the ones that complement each other. We have allowed with marketing, with content and influencers, and we have gamers and players, while Monomyto understands game development and let's call it the real programming, right? The tech side, that's right. So that's why it makes for such a powerful combination. I have two other partners at Loud who already had experiences in mobile gaming companies in Silicon Valley and who brought a lot of experience for this strategic partnership in Monomyto. We have been able to play that side very well. I've created content for 10 years. I work with the mobile games community, with the players. So I have the understanding of a mobile gamer. So I think that combination creates a lot of synergy. And this is what we've seen as Gunstars was developed. Not only Gunstars as a game, but as a well-rounded product in social media and marketing, our launch strategy. So we're getting the best of both worlds,
Bom, agora que a gente já entende melhor dos dois lados
right?
aí
So
da
now that we understand both sides and now that we can create the best of both worlds,
eu
let's
imagino
talk
que
about the
quando a gente
cons. What
começou, então a gente
shouldn't
vai
we
falar
do
disso, tá?
as an influencer? And here I'm giving my opinion, okay? You're probably going to say, don't get the briefing completely made for the influencer, something that is um, too fixed, too rough. You know, let them give them their own look. Stop doing that, you know.
Dica pra galera que tá assistindo a
So,
gente.
what tips can you give for the folks watching us? Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of independent studios that are starting with a very low marketing budget, and it's hard to contact an influencer, especially the major ones, right? The tier one influencers who really have a high number of views, a high number of watchers. So it's tough. As you said, as influencers, we understand that usually when we get briefs, they're too ready, and it's not a win-win situation then. If you really have a good product and you like the influencer, you don't even need to contact them. They're going to organically make content for your games, and which is what I've done with the games I've worked on. And as you develop, you can start working with influencers for specific activations, specific ads. But right at the beginning, when you're talking to an influencer, if you have a small studio, you should probably give them something that they normally don't get. Usually they get, an agency with a lot of middlemen that gives them a briefing for them to say this is the best game ever, and they've never played it. That's not natural. That might give you some downloads for a day. It might give you a few ranks in the App Store, but it's a long, you need to have a long tail. This is not sustainable. And so you're always going to need to have a user acquisition budget to keep your downloads high. But if you try to establish a long-term relationship with your influencer, if you tell them that you might develop a product for their audience that could be relevant for them, if you decide to share profits, or if you decide to include your content in their content in your game, and if you already have a number of active users, it can make for a very good partnership. I've seen studios that came to small influencers to say, well, I can help you improve your channel, your content. I see potential in you, and you're also going to help me get an audience for my game. We're going to grow together, and this is going to be a win-win partnership. So for indie studios, having these out-of-the-box ideas really work, especially with Brazilian studios, which have a great culture. So it's always good to have a message in your game. It's great to see an email from a Brazilian studio who wants to get a bigger viewership and who wants to do things differently, that wants to step out of the usual. The gaming world sort of seems like a conveyor belt where you need to, have a good performance, have a good user base, and go on to the next game. If you have a better relationship that's deeper, that might be better. There are a lot of developers that work in major studios, and after a while, they start feeling that as well. It's not so interesting to work on a product if it seems like a conveyor belt. Game development is almost like an art. I know many people who worked with me and who still believe that. They need to have a true and authentic relationship with the game for it to work. It's like marriage. This is my relationship to influencers. If they're winning, the game's going to win. If it's not a win win strategy, it's not going to work. That's my experience as an influencer.
And from a developer's point of view, maybe some advice I could give developers to be a bit more open, something that's a bit out of the development world. Sometimes we're so square, in terms of launching the product, releasing, selling as much as I can, and then killing it and getting something new. And then it's a vicious cycle. Open your ears, open your head to see what can add. I think it's a worthy piece of advice and being able to transform your product in a way that it's more interesting and you know that it's going to have a greater reach. If we didn't have a partnership like this, we would never get there. Something else that I think is also important, I see, you know the ones I know are mostly in Brazil. They created a product, they didn't test it through. There's a deadline because it's a short budget, so maybe they don't work on the basic rules. Having an MVP, a minimum viable product, even if it's for a small audience, shared with professionals out there in the industry. Big is right here for you to network. This is something that we've been doing uh, frequently to see to what extent that is working, that's cool, or it's not, worth any more effort. It's simple advice. Many people know this, but I've seen lots of studios not doing it. Nice. So one thing that you brought to the table is going into the game's production, really, because that makes a difference. We see lots of influencers and games that are going into the development stage, and that makes you brings a feeling of belonging. That extra care that'll make a difference when you're talking about that game. When you're going to produce content about it. So let's talk about the so-called social gaming. The investment, people talk about, helping the industry, but that's what it's about, right? Going after a Brazilian company, going after a game of an indie developer, and sitting right next to them, helping, influencing, supporting. Tell us a little bit about that, the game going beyond the just playing the game. Rafael, if you want to kick it off. I believe the game as being entertainment, it brings much more than just the playing itself. You look at the consumption of games today, it's not just spending that time on a mobile device or a console, or it's, you're watching your favorite influencers, you're watching competitive matches, following people that somehow are in the gaming world. Loud, we can mention, they do all the branding involving games and music and so many other things. So that's a bit of that. How important it is on the developer side, being open to understand the possible paths that are part of the ecosystem. It's not just being focused on playing. You turn it off and your gaming world is over. Bruno, if you could elaborate a bit, as founder of Loud Influencer, you're an entrepreneur, and today it's important for companies to believe in showing that they're not just a company, that they're there, influencing something important, necessary as indie development. Oh yeah, it's key to have this kind of support. We were pioneers in this initiative of supporting from a group of content creators somebody who put a company together, working as developers. We see our stories. I'm only here where I am today because of a game I started playing on my mobile when I was, 13, 14 years old. I got addicted. I started playing all mobile games. I started producing content. And today, work on that today and being an entrepreneur, businessman. And this happens with all loud influencers. There are stories of influencers who came from diverse places, geographies, and backstories in Brazil and transformed their lives through gaming. So it's much beyond the entertainment, the interacting with your friends and just playing the games. The stories are extremely valuable. We see that the audience at home, the bar is higher. It's much more than just a product. There are the values and how they foster the ecosystem. So that's a bit of what we want to share with Loud. We share that with Monomyto as well. Good people who are there to produce quality products, and we think that's the right path. That's the organic way. The less artificial that is, more successful it'll be for the product, for the company, for the community. And if the ecosystem's happy, everybody wins.
Isso traz assim
Oh,
um
yeah.
mundo
And
feliz para
that
mim. E
is a
assim,
great way to
você como
segue
influenciador, você vai
how
trabalhar
to
com
choose
isso,
which
você vai
influencer you're
passando
going to
isso.
work with
É muito
on your
bacana.
game.
Mas aí, quando você diz, me
Tell
diga,
me if what I
você
think is right, because the
você tem
influencer
uma relação
needs to
com
have
o
some
jogo.
kind of a
Então,
direct relationship with the
você
game.
quer investir naquele cara que você fala,
It's no
não,
use just investing
esse
in the
influencer
dude, in
precisa
the girl, because they
investir
have
mais.
the figures. There has to be a
Essa,
so-called
essa questão
match.
dela é
Do you
fundamental
think
ou qualquer
this is
influencer
essential, or any
precisa
influencer could
precisa disso?
work on anything? There's not this, breakdown. No, this is totally true. Having done hundreds of campaigns for online games, I see that naturally, because a game, before trying to find an influencer for strategic partnership or paid partnership or something, they have to map out the landscape. They have to understand the niches, the ecosystems, the products that are available out in the marketplace, and who's going to connect better. If they don't do that, it's going to be a waste of time, money. It might generate hate in a gamer community because of the campaign. So if you have a super niche community for MOBA and you bring a battle royale promotion that's got nothing to do with it, you can harm your game. So they're going to start hating your game. It's going to be a toxic community, and so you have to map that out before you start a campaign, knowing that the biggest influencers who have the highest figures are not always the ideal people for you right there and then. There are moments in games that probably need somebody more qualified to test and give you feedback rather than a multitude of players who, after the first little issue, they're going to uninstall the game. So the different stages of releasing a game and maintaining the game, they have to be analyzed in depth. Companies have gotten this much better, this mapping out, but it's still off sometimes, and that's basically it. Rafael, let's talk
A
about
gente tem medo, né? Os desenvolvedores
what many
independentes
people
falam
are
isso.
afraid of, Brazilian
É
developers.
o famoso budget.
Money, cash, the famous budget, So when we talk about the big bucks, influencers, you know, they charge very high amounts for posts. Can you give advice to indie developers how they can come to influencers? What's this money issue like? And Bruno, if you wanna, chime in, feel free. I'm gonna bring a case, Until Dead, another game that we developed. We came to that point of having to identify who the best influencers would be, what the best partnerships would be to reach a certain audience, and it was a completely niched game. It was difficult, small team. We didn't have a we didn't have it mapped out. What was interesting was to have the game growing organically, first and foremost. To get, just like homegrown, quote unquote, to produce your own social network material, you know, if you have some kind of community, but strengthening over social media to, bring awareness to the game. You can use tools like Facebook, you can run any kind of ad, uh, um, user acquisition, also, and you start getting it right little by little. When you start a product, we always have a target in mind, but according to what the product's life cycle will be, you start having different paths to choose from. So for indie studios, the beginner studios, I believe this is not that easy, to map it out, and it's not, uh, right to go straight to the big figures. The investment will be extremely high, and you know, look at what your game is like, and the landscape you're in. Internet. You can search. Homegrown. In-house, and you structure different possible paths. We got some partnerships. We got some awards that brought greater viewership and visibility, and so we got greater reach. So as you work, you know, one day after the other, you see what you got right, what you can improve, and so that's a bit of what it is. That's a dev's life. Yeah, I also truly believe in what Rafa just mentioned. Stages in game developing. We're here at big festival. In the beginning of a game, you don't need to have loud and that's not the moment. Maybe it's a soft launch, just testing, correcting bugs, and maybe what you need is a micro influencer who works on quality production. The budget will be much smaller, to bring it to the marketplace, to partners, investors, to get an ad. You're going to seek for more users, acquire more users. So get one good content producer rather than an influencer with high numbers. But maybe it's the opposite. You've got funding, and you really want to test how that will stand or not. So you need to give it a just like a big shot in a short amount of time. So it's different situations depending on the stage of the game. What I always say is thinking out of the box is usually the solution. Sometimes you're going to get the influencer not with money, but with a where there's a possible win-win partnership, whether having a product in a game, having the influencer's name in the game, a partnership in the app store, getting their video in an app store or one play store. There are different ways to win the influencer over. Influencers are, they rather get something at home than to get a huge payment. They like the little gifts, and so when they feel pleased with that relationship, they're going to continue working with you, and that'll strengthen naturally. There are several cases. Even happened to me. You run a campaign, but you like the game and you play it a few more times and you push it organically more. And we stay in touch with a developer so that in other opportunities, other products that they launch, other events, and other marketing initiatives, we come in cheaper. We know the game's going to be good. The audience is going to like it. So these are tests for both sides, and always trying to think outside the box. It will uh, make you unique among all the influencers that the agencies get trying to push mobile, especially those of us who like games, right, Bruno? It makes all the difference when you look at a briefing document that you can opinionate about the game, and they hear us. It's so nice. We really enjoy it, right? So you talked about those gifts, the famous gifts that we get. We have a question about that. What do you think about kits to be delivered to the influencers?
Oh, I love it. I think, when you give them gifts, you have to get the good gift, right? There might be, standard gifts where they got it and they don't even know where you are. But if you send them a gift where you know about their personality and you send them something that they like, you can be sure that they're going to post it, they're going to wear it, they're going to at least try to find out who you are. So that's a great way of starting a conversation. It's much better than sending, a traditional email that might even look like spam. This is what influencers do. So you can't demand anything. You can't demand anything after you send them some swag. So it has to be natural. If you ask them if they're going to post it, you might not even get an answer. This is our work. You shouldn't come to a dentist and ask them, well, can you give me some braces? That's not how it works. So you need to know how to see that, appreciate that, have a test team, and everyone is a human being. So you need to build something, go beyond just writing an email or a budget. That's always great. I really like
Aí
working
Deus
like
é
that.
que bom, né? O problema é que
Well, it's always great to get gifts, right?
aí fica difícil, como
But
você disse.
the problem is when someone demands that you
Tem que fazer
post
com
it, right?
responsabilidade, cara.
Yeah,
Você tem que
that's what I
fazer
was saying.
Oi? É.
It can't be fake, right? Yes, that right. That would never work.
Não rola. Você que é desenvolvedor aí de casa,
But if you're a developer at home,
só que o problema é
remember
que
that we
você vai
always like
postar, e aí fica
gifts.
estranho. E aí
But
muita gente fica.
yeah, and sometimes you might get
Aí você
angry
fala
if you
assim,
don't post it. Yeah, you can't do that.
às vezes não é nem questão que o influencer não
And it's
posta,
not even
é
about the
porque você
influencer
tá
not
dando
liking it, but
dinheiro
he
que
might
precisa
have
pagar, que
a,
deveria
a,
realmente
a spot for an ad that day that they need to post and have good engagement. That's right, there are many factors.
Bom, a gente estava falando justamente
Anyways, we were
essas
talking about
influenciadores
the
e
relationship between
influencers.
influencers and the
Bruno
game.
Rafa, eu queria falar um
Bruno
pouco
and Hafa, I'd
sobre
like to
o futuro
talk
de
a bit
Gunstar,
about
certo?
the
Se a gente
future of
isso é
Gunstars, right?
possível, tanto para
If
loud quanto
there's
para o
a
jogo, quais
competitive
são os
potential
planos?
for loud
Antes
and
de você
for
falar
the
alguma
game,
coisa
what
aí que
plans
você
do you
queira,
have? If you can tell
independente
us,
do não, né?
I
É
always,
importante a gente saber sobre qualquer coisa.
ask before I know if I can ask. But anyways, so I'll start off, Bruno. Um, the game is being developed to be competitive. We want to be in the multiplayer world. So we're trying to see what is the best we can do, and we're transferring it to the game so that the user's experience goes as we intend. Of course, there are a number of factors to make your game a hit, especially in competitive gaming and esports. But that's what we're working for. And still on the game, as we started going into social experience and creating that relationship between a developer and an influencer or brands that partner with us. For Monomyto, this is what we're working on. We want to go at the roots, creating experiences that we believe will work. And we have someone on the screen that is an example of that. And we're not only seeing experiences as a cosmetic thing. Of course, that's always welcome. It's great to have a skin for a weapon, um, or for a character, but also having specific events that bring influencers closer, even influencers for other brands. And you can do that for some time. I think the second pillar that we're working on is the icing on the cake, which is making influencers into a playable character. We were talking about a gameplay. In a gameplay, we can summon a hero that has a narrative in Gunstars, which is completely connected and inspired by influencers. So we started that. We changed the gameplay completely. It gave it a different face, and not only the gaming experience, but how much can you open now? How much can you offer as a B2B tool for other influencers and other brands? Yeah, in my opinion, the competitive mode in Gunstars is still in the early stage. It's hard to predict. Of course, this is what it's being developed for. I was going to show something on the screen about what Rafa had mentioned, some of the skins that we're working together on with Loud. We have some previews there on a map. There's a screenshot, and the next slide has some of the features like code generators to provide items for the audience, limited collabs with brands and with influencers and different characters in the game, private rooms for players to play with their friends. So these are some of the strategic solutions that we're implementing in Gunstar so that we can strengthen the social experience and also playing with influencers. So they're going to be able to choose and select their idols in the game itself. That's very important. Going back to the competitive mode, although we can't be sure that it's going to work, that people will like it, will spend hours doing it, I believe that competitive mode is created to be a marketing platform. Why do you have competitions and championships? You want to keep your audience engaged, the market connected, and our way of working with influencers also will create an interesting platform. So there are different ways of reaching the same goal, which is having competitions. Although we really want to have it, there are other approaches that we're going to try to get to that goal, which is to have an engaged audience.
Isso que o povo gosta, disso que o povo quer.
Yeah, that's what people like and that's what people want.
Eu queria saber de vocês, porque a gente sabe que
Now,
uma parcela muito
we
grande
know
do
that
público gamer brasileiro
a
eles não
part of the
têm dinheiro
gamer
para comprar consoles
world in Brazil, especially on PC and console gaming,
em relação a jogos móveis
have
e jogos de
a
desenvolvedores
different
brasileiros.
understanding of mobile games and games by Brazilian developers.
Mesmo. Eu queria
Let's
saber
say
de
that they're
vocês,
prejudiced.
como que os influenciadores
On your
podem
side, how can
exatamente reverter
influencers
esse estereótipo
contribute
dessa
to
comunidade?
remove that stereotype from our community? Yeah, I believe that it's something that we need to work on. We need to build because there is a barrier with mobile games. From the beginning, when we had, Clash of Clans, is when, it really started booming. And this was already seen, it was already disregarded. They need to understand, I'm saying they because I've never been much of a PC or console gamer. They need to understand that this is a product that exists and is sometimes the only product that there is for a certain part of the population. It can be an entry door to the gaming world, which is a game that everyone loves, gets you out of depression, helps you overcome your shyness, and sometimes that's the only resource that you have. Sometimes it can be expensive to buy a gaming PC or a console. So you need to understand that mobile gamers are gamers. We see big championships with mobile games. We see professional players, influencers who have their careers based on that and help their families. So although that stereotype is going away, it needs to continue to go away until it disappears. I think it's terrible to try to reduce others to that. And I believe in the future, most games will be cross-platform. There are many that are strong at that. Among Us, Fortnite, you can play in different platforms, and the more developers create cross-platform games, the more we will lose this sort of
Bom,
prejudice.
infelizmente nosso tempo
Great.
terminou.
Well, everyone,
Nós
unfortunately,
vamos
we've
fazer
run out of time.
quase
I could be here for hours and
todas
hours. In
essas
fact,
opiniões conseguem.
Bruno, that was a great last answer.
Assistir em
That's
casa,
it.
coloque essas
If you're
palavras em
watching from
prática.
home, remember
Mas
those
antes de ir,
words.
nós tínhamos
So,
uma
just to
pergunta para
conclude,
vocês.
where can people find you guys?
Nas redes sociais.
Social media. Well, Loud Games is easy to find, right? Monomyto is very easy to find. Monomyto with a Y. And then you can find our social media profiles. We are working in a closed beta game. So if you're interested, look at our website, sign up, and you might be selected to play. We're also working on our Discord community. It's growing more and more, so you can find us there and talk to developers. That's it. That's right. I know that some people are interested in this market and who are playing. So if you want to join us, contact Monomyto. And similarly, I often say in my panels that it's very easy to find PlayHard. But if you want to find me on LinkedIn, my name is Bruno Bittencourt Loud. And that's a different platform that will have a more direct interaction. So that's basically it. Thank you for inviting me to be here. It was incredible to talk a little bit more about that. Sometimes influencers only talk about the game itself or playing with the audience. So being able to go to a second page is very good. Thank you.
Exatamente. Até a próxima edição.
Thank you so much, everyone. And maybe we'll talk to you next year.
Igualmente. Obrigada.
Goodbye. Yeah, it would be a pleasure.
Beijo. E você?
Big Festival 2021, the biggest games festival in Latin America.